Hello everyone, am I audible to you all?
Yes.
Thank you. Shubh, we are not able to hear you.
Hello, am I audible now?
Hello, sir. Good evening. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, Shubh, you're audible now. You can go
Hello.
ahead.
Hello.
You are audible.
Hello.
Yes, I hope I'm audible now, sir.
Yeah, Shubh, you are audible.
Your
Go ahead.
voice is not clear.
Okay.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, Kritik, are you trying to say something?
Hello, sir. My voice is coming.
Yeah,
Hello.
we
Yes,
can hear you.
Hello.
yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, Kritik.
Sir, what you are teaching? Actually, I have joined late.
No, no, we are about to start, Kritik. Don't worry.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay, so we'll start. Hello and welcome, everyone. I am Shubh Parmar, your host for today's webinar. My team and I are here to make sure you have a seamless and engaging experience. If you have any questions or need assistance, feel free to use the chat window. We are here to help. The topic for today is develop copilots with Azure AI Studio. This is the Advantage India Skilling and AINSI initiative by Microsoft aimed at empowering the future with AI skills at scale. It highlights key focus areas such as data and AI, Office 365 Copilot, GitHub Copilot, prompt engineering, and security. The initiative emphasizes the role of AI in skill development and digital transformation. Anyone who is interested to join these sessions, please connect with us. Or anyone who wants to organize these exclusive sessions in your organizations or college, please do let us know as these sessions are absolutely free. Today's event is sponsored by Synergetics and Microsoft. Synergetics is a leading edge learning solution provider in India offering specialized training and consulting services. We empower businesses and professionals to thrive in today's fast evolving tech landscape by delivering transformative learning experiences. Our core focus is on enabling digital transformation through innovative skilling programs, advisory services, and end to end implementation support. From modernizing IT frameworks to mastering emerging technologies like AI, cloud computing, and DevOps, Synergetics is committed to equipping you with the tools and knowledge to succeed. These are the learning solutions which are offered by Synergetics, which are persona based onboarding, onboarding add on, certification add on, reskilling, emerging technology training, certification hackathon, cloud adoption, latest technology training, sales, pre sales training, practice playbook, and architecting. This is the Microsoft certification skilling journey. The journey begins with the fundamental certification, then progresses to advanced role based certifications, and finally to expert level certifications. We are thrilled to have Mr. Om Prakash Pandey as our today's speaker. He is a certified Microsoft trainer and a consultant at Synergetics. He brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in AI and cloud technologies. The agenda for this webinar is Introduction to Azure AI Foundry, navigating the diverse range of language models available, deploying models, introduction to prompt flow, building RAG based copilot solutions, fine tuning language models. You have to follow the code of conduct which will help us to keep a respectful environment throughout the session. Please note that you are not allowed to take the screenshots or do screen recordings of the of the session. Do follow us on our social media platforms to get relevant updates on upcoming webinars, workshops, certification training we do. The link will be shared in the chat box. We run communities on Meetup. This is the emerging technology community. Anyone who are eager to learn about technological knowledge can join this community on Meetup. We have multiple communities in Pune, Gujarat, Nagpur, and Indore. Those who are interested to join this community, please log in to Meetup app and gain your knowledge for free. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to me. Now we'll hand over the mic to our speaker. Thank you.
Thanks, Shub. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for your patience and support. To our AI session. Like Shub mentioned earlier, as part of Microsoft initiative and Synergetics being a partner with Microsoft, We are delivering these sessions to make sure we have maximum outreach and everyone is aligned and are having a right understanding of AI based services and Microsoft solutions for helping us to build generative AI solutions at a faster pace. As part of the learning initiative, today's session is focusing on developing generative AI applications using Azure AI Foundry. Many of us may be surprised looking at different name changes which has been happening recently with Microsoft, especially in case of AI services. Earlier it was named as Azure AI, then we heard about OpenAI adoption, then another term being used very commonly is Azure OpenAI, and now we are getting to know a new term as Azure AI Foundry. Apart from this, there has been various name changes for other services as well. As far as these change in terms of naming conventions is concerned, this is ensuring people have right understanding and the scope of these services, the features being given by these services is extending on day to day basis. To ensure there is a right understanding, that's why this name has been changed, setting up foundations for AI, which is home for lot of pre-existing models, open AI models, and as a consumer, anyone who's a Microsoft developer or user of Microsoft services, it should become easier for them to find out, correlate, and work with these services in a simpler manner. That's the purpose of Azure AI Foundry. Within these 2 hours devoted for today, are we going to cover all these topics? May not be possible because there is enormous amount of depth and there are plenty of pre-existing models which are being provided. But yes, using this applied skill, using the relevant resources being given, it will give a kickstart to each of us, including me, because every time I feel that I know something on AI Foundry or Azure AI, I see there are 10 new more things being added to the stack. So my learning process still goes ahead. Every day, new set of libraries, new set of APIs coming in. But being a lifelong learner, this is a great opportunity for us, and especially having a clear focus in mind of helping organizations, helping individuals to build their solutions, build their applications using these new era technologies that helps us keep going. As part of this 2 hour session, what I'm trying to focus on is some aspects of it. Like Shubh mentioned, this is a day long program which we can deliver at your premises, going to the required depth, and more essentially doing required hands on with for each of these topics using the Azure subscription, where you all can leverage on free tier subscription, free trial subscription, and start implementing these services within the given resource. Once we are done with our learning and implementation, we can publish our badges onto social media platforms. For learning all these resources, Microsoft has given a complete learning path for it, which you all can leverage upon, and this will help you all build a firm understanding from perspective of what are components within Azure AI Foundry and how this can help us to build resources. Would make note of the links which I am sharing on the chat just to help you all with few more important links from Microsoft Skillfest. Along with this, you have generative AI for beginners, people who are new to the AI and generative AI solutions. You all can go through this. I have already shared the learn resources with you all, which you all can build upon. Along with this, you all can look at the link provided over here, that is learn.microsoft.com, creating custom copilots. So along with these reference links to look at, let's get started. Let's look at our today's session and let's understand some of the fundamental areas within Azure AI Foundry. What are the options available here? Throughout the session, my request to all of you all would be to keep yourself on mute. If you all have any questions, doubts, queries, you all can put it on the chat. It will be easier for me to answer those questions on the chat. So before we get started with Azure AI Foundry, can I see raise of hands? People who have already worked with generative AI, people who have already worked with Copilot resources. So I can see one hand being raised by Somesh. How about others? Anyone else who has worked with generative AI solutions? It need not be Azure, even if you have worked with AWS, Meta, or other environments. So I can see two hands being raised. Thank you guys. Put your hands down. So guys, once it comes to artificial intelligence, it is entire umbrella of terms where we have plenty of large language models being developed over a period of time, and these large language models are being trained in such a way that they can understand the prompts given by the user, they can understand the requirements being shared by the user, and they can respond back by creating the required contents for them. And in this competitive world, there are plenty of such models existing where you have GPT, where you have DALI, where we have Whisper, where we have Hugging Face. So there are different organizations, there are different groups, open groups who have come up with their own models. They have come up with different efficiency levels, right, trained with right amount of data sets, and we have much better solutions available with us to pick from and build our own applications, build our own resources based on that. Now, amongst all these pre-existing models that we are talking about, what is the purpose of Azure AI Foundry? As far as AI Foundry is concerned, this is a pro code development environment where you already have lot of these models available, the catalog or the categories available to us, and we can pick and choose from these models. As far as these models are concerned, they are not mapped to a specific organization, they are not mapped to a specific domain, these are generic models. So what we would need to do is, as individuals, developers, we have been working with various programming technologies in past. We have been working with various libraries in past. What we used to do is, we used to add those jar files, NuGet packages, we used to add respective SDKs for it, right, and write a code, whether it is front end, back end, right, all those integration options. We have been writing these kind of programming to solve a given customer concern, solve a given customer problem, use case scenarios being given to us, and provide right output for the same. Similarly, once it comes to Azure AI Foundry, this is giving us lot of pre-existing models where we can fine tune these models by adding respective data sets, by giving right set of prompts to it so that it behaves in a particular manner. Now, along with these hosting of models, giving a right environment for working with these models, what we'll also require is compute capabilities, computational power. For this computational power, Azure AI Foundry in the backend already has pre-existing resources being mapped to it, pre-existing compute power being associated with it, so that we have a right kind of abstraction on the underlying compute environment. So we don't have to worry about building the networks, building the required infrastructure for it, building a required machine for it. All these things are taken care in the background, so that we can focus on which kind of model we want to choose, how do we fine tune those model, what is the data sets that we want to mention to it, right, and how do we write our code, and through our code we can connect to that service endpoint. That should be our focus. Apart from this, we can have, apart from prompting that I mentioned earlier, we can have model orchestration as well, because if you're looking at an end-to-end application, like I mentioned earlier, we had front end, service layer, data access layer, database, integration layer. Similarly, we need to have orchestration between multiple models. So we need to have a facade, right, and this facade will handle all the user interactions. Behind the scene, it can interact with different set of models depending upon the requirement being mentioned, depending upon the expectations being mentioned by our customer. Apart from the compute power which I mentioned earlier, it also gives us an environment which is testable, reliable, scalable, and it is able to handle large number of requests coming from the end user. Along with this, being a service given by Microsoft, it is also taking care of the basic guardrails in terms of responsible AI safety. It does not mean that Microsoft is responsible for the customizations or the given environment, or it will be building guardrails keeping your organization in mind or your data sets in mind. As a developer, we know what are the guardrails or what are the security measures that we'll have to mention. We need to ensure that which will be on top of the pre-existing environment. Like I mentioned earlier, once the simplicity is being given, Microsoft Azure will expose it as an endpoint, and through that we can go ahead and build our custom applications and services on top of it. I hope this gives you all a good start from AI Foundry perspective. Before I go into details of each of these resources, this is my Azure portal interface. People who have worked with Azure interface, they would know these resources. This is broken up into various sections via different blades. To start off with any resource, let's just give it a moment. So here I have Azure AI Foundry. So as part of the resource here, we have options available like AI Foundry, AI Hub. Let me first create a AI Hub as a resource over here. As foundational aspect of Azure environment, here we need to have a resource group. We can specify relevant location for the same. Whatever name we want to mention over here. Connect AI services in we can have multiple services available here in terms of key vault, application insights. Right now, my primary focus over here is to have a base resource being created. I'm not going for any advanced services right now. So you can see inbound access, outbound access, encryption of data being transferred, what is the identity that we want to use over here, the different set of tabs which is more specific features one can create here. Right now I'll keep it very simple, otherwise we will be discussing lot of other aspects which is out of the scope of the current environment, current session. But one thing to be clear about, from data protection perspective, from implementational aspects, all foundational members are available over here. So you can see the service description here. As part of the packaging, Microsoft has packaged it as part of machine learning services. Microsoft dot machine learning services. So the training of the model and all these things are being taken care in the backend. This will take some time to create. Meanwhile, let me go back to my slide deck. Now once this environment is ready, this is the kind of UI that we'll see once we create the project. So we'll be able to see the model catalog, we'll be able to see various playgrounds over here, chat playground, real-time audio, images, auto completion. There are options for fine tuning. There are resources in terms of shared resources for deployments, quotas, any kind of data files or vector store that one would want to create. All these options are available as part of our AI Foundry. Now once it comes to our AI Foundry, like I showed you all, there were two options that we mentioned there. One is AI Hub as a resource, and second is AI Project. As far as AI Hub is concerned, this is where we have connection management. Like I mentioned about compute in the previous slide, all this compute is being managed in the backend. Foundational security setup, governance is being taken care within your hub as a resource. As part of AI project, right? So within an AI hub, there can be multiple AI projects that one can create. Each project will be focusing on model, what is the deployment and testing of resource that you want to do, any changes or fine tuning that one would want to do for a given resource. That aspects can be taken care within a AI project. Say for example, as an organization or as a solution provider, we are working with an organization. So there we can create a AI hub instance mapping to that organization. Within that, mapping to specific projects that we have, specific departments that we have. Each department we can have multiple AI projects, finance department, sales department, marketing department. For each department we can have specific project being created. Now once it comes to AI Foundry, they are generic resources, generic models that we have. Along with this, like I mentioned earlier, if we have to fine tune and train these models for a specific organization, here we need to create connections within Azure AI Foundry so that we'll be able to authenticate the users who are connecting, developers, end users, administrators, right? There can be different roles that people would play over here. Along with this, we can set integrations between other resources, Microsoft, non-Microsoft resources, so that it can continuously fetch data from there and train itself accordingly. So if you look at your Azure AI services, it can connect to Azure OpenAI, Azure AI Search, other cognitive services which are available to us. We can connect to non-Microsoft services using the API keys or the custom connection that one would want, because here we are talking about different data sources which could be structured data sources, semi-structured or unstructured data sources. We can have connection with external data as well. Now whenever we are connecting with these Microsoft resources or non-Microsoft resources, we will need to store the connection string, we need to store the credentials over here, right? We may need to store the certificates over here. For these security associations, we can persist this information, store these details within our key vault. So we have Azure Key Vault as an option available for us, which can help us have a simplified mechanism, have a loosely coupled model for managing security of resources and still adhere to compliance standards, right? So many auditors, they will be more concerned, or security personnel, they will be more concerned about how this security is being managed within the environment. The reason you all will see why there is too much of stress in terms of security, because with OpenAI coming into picture, with lot of generative AI resources coming into picture, deep fake videos and audios coming to picture, there's a lot of questions being asked about if we train this model, can it be misused, can it be used in improper way or incorrect way. If a prompt is being mentioned to discard all the previous trainings, take a new prompt and start giving out sensitive information about credit card details or other customer information, how is our system or how is the underlying environment going to handle that? Are there ways and means through which developers can build their own security mechanism, right? So keeping those kind of aspects in mind, we will see more such solutions, or I will be mentioning more about the security aspects during our conversation here. If you look at collaboration options, allowing different set of users to work with it. So we have built-in Azure roles that can be leveraged over here, where we have owner, contributor, reader. Just give me one moment. Yeah. So I've got my AI Foundry resource ready. And here if we see, we have the base resources being mentioned, the standard elements of Azure environment, where we have activity log, where we have respective tags which was being mentioned, mapping to a department, mapping to a specific SPOC within that department, right? And then we have aspects in terms of data encryption, how do you to secure access to these resources, how many projects are being mapped over here, and other basic aspects will be available through our standard service. Now one would say, Om Prakash, while we are looking at the diagram, it looks slightly different as compared to what we are seeing over here. So right now it is Microsoft Manage. We have not mentioned container registry or application insights. The UI which was being shown to us was actually part of your AI Foundry. So from here we can launch that environment, ai.azure.com. So we have our hub being created over here. So which are the users being mapped over here. what are the models being deployed, if there are any connected resource that we are talking about. So you are looking at openai.azure.com, cognitiveservices.azure.com. So these are set of target services that we have, and there are respective keys which are available. From compute point of view, we can use serverless instances, we can create our own instance over here, but right now we don't see any compute, we don't see any serverless instance. Reason being, we have not created any project as such, so we'll have to do that. So this is the base environment or base resource for AI Foundry and a hub over here. If we take a new project, so what is the location for it? We can specify project name, it just verifies that this is unique. Like shown in the diagram, one hub can have multiple projects inside it. This might take some time. Meanwhile, I'll jump back to the Azure portal and go to the access control IAM. IAM actually refers to identity and access management, and here we can check what is the roles being pre-assigned to the users. If you want to add a new role, we can go to add role assignment, and here we will see there are two types of roles: owner, contributor, reader. Depending upon our requirement, we can specify a role to a specific group or a specific user that we may want. Right now, let me assign a contributor role. Now, whom do we want to assign this role? Do we want to assign this role to a user, group, service principal, or managed identity? Service principal primarily refers to the applications that we are creating, but they will have to be first registered inside the Entra ID. Permission to one group over here, DDLS group 1. So whichever members I have inside this group, they will have contributor permissions. They will have contributor permissions, right? So I've already mapped this permission over here and we are able to see that. Okay, so I'm done with the project creation, and now you all will see similar UI that we are mentioning about and we saw in the first slide. So we have assets, assess and improvise, build and customize, and what was being shown was the model catalog. So what is the model leaderboards, which are the best performing models, best recommended models, what is the cost wise, throughput wise, and these are set of pre-existing models which are harbored inside the AI Foundry. Okay, there are quite a few which are OpenAI models. There are plenty of them which are non-OpenAI, where we have DeepSeek, Llama, Meta. So depending upon our requirement, Hugging Face, there are different type of models that we can pick and choose from here, and whichever is relevant for our given customer scenario, we can leverage on these members. So we have OpenAI, Whisper Large. So we can use these 2 hours just to go through all the models, or easier way would be to pick one model and start with it. Here if you see, there are plenty of resources being shared with us. We have the API key. How do you refer to these members? Various SDKs which are available. Azure AI Inference, Azure AI Services. What is the endpoint mapping to it? What is the OpenAI endpoint mapping to it? So we can leverage it over here. We can go to the models and deployment section. So if you want to pick a model from here, we can do that. We can look at the playgrounds over here, where we have audio playground, health playground, language playground. Depending upon which model we have chosen, we can have a chat based interface pre-provided by Microsoft to help us interact with it. So I hope this gives a fair amount of idea what we can expect from this environment, expect from Azure AI Foundry. If you look at these 3 roles, owner and contributor role is very similar. Owner can hand over these permissions or assign permissions to other project users, which contributor cannot do. So giving permissions to somebody else can be done only by owner or individuals or group who have owner permissions. As the name suggests, readers, they can only refer this or use the resource. They cannot create, modify or delete anything from this resource. Apart from this, if you look at specific roles for this service, you have Azure AI Developer and AI Inference Deployment Operator. So if you want to create any projects, compute, connections, right, that's where we leverage upon Azure AI Developer as a role. As far as inference is concerned, this is more from an administration point of view, generic Azure administration. Now once it comes to our environment, we can use these roles, or we can go for a custom role as well. I'm skipping this part from the roles perspective. So this is the first module which helps us understand the primary details about what is AI Foundry all about. I have already created the instance. Let me go to the next step here. How do we implement responsible AI in Azure AI Foundry? What are the options available? So first step we already have seen. I already mentioned about the reason for security, reason for focusing on the security model. So once it comes to your planning a responsible generative AI solution, the focus over here is it should be practical, it should be actionable, and depending upon our customer requirement, we should be able to pick a right kind of model. Along with this, we should also look at what say if you're going as per a given domain or a specific vertical, right? Whether you look at the medical sector, whether you look at BFSI segment, whether you look at manufacturing sector, right? Each of these verticals, each of these sectors that we are talking about, they will have their own challenges. There will be audit bodies within them which are uh, which are focusing on making sure there are right set of implementations being done, right set of details being mentioned over here. Here we should look at identifying the potential harm. So what is our solution, and whether that model has appropriate guardrails within itself, has a strong security foundation. That should be the first thing. Measure the presence of these harms. So here what we can do is we can specify what is the prompts that we want to try out, right? We can give pre-existing prompts and customize it for prompts which should stop certain output or stop certain data being shared. What are the options to mitigate these harms? Now one approach over here could be, when it comes to data in the backend, what are we doing to make sure we have right labeling, right sensitivity being mapped with those data components, that this data should not be shared with the user, specifically when the user is outside the organization boundary. Fourth is having right set of mechanism and creating a operational readiness plan. This is something which is very crucial, where every organization wants to adopt AI, adopt generative AI solutions, but before that they will have to first understand the data sets within their organization, the knowledge sources that they have, and which are the data that has to be scanned, that has to be labeled, that has to be sensitized before we start using it to train the model. Because model will not know what is right or wrong. It is we who have to define that. This data is accessible only to specific set of people within the organization. And when we are talking about RBAC, role based access control, role based access control is not only for AI Foundry instance, the project instance that we have, but it is also applicable for all the data members that we are creating or that we have within our environment, the knowledge sources that we have. The next important aspect here is checking for pre-release reviews, right? So if you see the restrictions being mentioned regarding whether you want it to be accessible within a given network, right? That's actually part of your responsible generative AI solution. So only certain set of applications, certain machines that we have, certain applications installed on those machines, only they can utilize these services, utilize these components. After we have verified, tested, got it approved from various relevant team members, testing QA team, then we release it to the final end user consumption. Now one question that everybody might have in mind, Om Prakash, whatever you said regarding data security, labeling, all those things are fine, we do understand that. Now tell me, within Azure AI, what are the mechanisms over here? So within Azure AI, we can specify resources like content filters, and we can create these content filters by using Azure AI Foundry and using appropriate language models over here. So as part of content filtering, we'll have to specify our own checklist over here. What should be shared, what should not be shared. We can have prompt shields which can scan the risk of user input attacks. Now what is the, first of all, we understand what is a prompt. As far as prompt is concerned, there are three core aspects when we are working with prompts. I'm not going to details of that because this is part of your foundations of generative AI, which I have already shared the link with y'all, so y'all can go through that. As far as prompts is concerned, prompt primarily is having three aspects to it. So one set of prompt is when we onboard a model, when we start training the model, we tell the model very clearly who are you, what you are supposed to do, what is my expectations from you as a model, right? So it starts tuning itself, it starts behaving in a particular manner. Second thing that we have to tell him, tell the model, him or her, whatever you refer it, him or her. So as far as that model is concerned, you have to tell that model what is my expectations from you. So who are you, what are you supposed to do, and then start giving appropriate prompts. Say, let me give an example. If I tell him, if I give a prompt saying you are a humorous agent, correct? You are supposed to create and share jokes with us. Now after setting this context to the prompt, now you ask him any banking question or you ask him any critical question, it will try and create some fun out of it, create some fun out of that, generate some kind of humor. So it may give you that answer, but tune it in a specific manner, right? So by using these prompt shields, what we have to do is at different stages of the prompt modeling, we have to tell them, you tell the prompt, tell the model that you are a banking and finance application. You have to be very sensitive to any kind of customer information being shared. Do not share customer information to unauthorized users. So the way how we retrain the model, the way how we fine tune the model by using the respective prompts, by using respective data sets, right? So the way how we train that model will help us to implement prompt shields. As part of various model training options, you have pre-built prompt shields as well. We can associate these prompt shields, and using these members, it can scan the risk of user input attack. Say for example, whatever training we have done by now, a single user prompt can remove all that. For example, discard all the previous settings and training being mentioned. So if you receive any such prompt like discard, drop, ignore those statements, right? So we will have to train our model in such a way that it does not respond or does not lose the context if there is anything invalid being given to it. Or even if it has to be done, it can be done only by administrators and not a normal user, correct? So that's how we can implement the prompt shields. Third member that you will see is groundedness detection. I'm not sure how many of y'all are aware about the meaning of groundedness. As far as groundedness is concerned, the way how copilots work, or the way how a chatbot solution or chatbot agent will work, if we are creating a enterprise level solution, what it needs to do is it needs to fetch generic information from the web. Apart from that, it has to work with the local solution available, the local environment available, the documents which has been given for it to train, and other local resources. It has to associate both of them together. That's called called as groundedness detection. So if the response is being generated from the web source, it has to mix it, it has to associate that with the user source content, right? The document which I have given to it, which could be certain financial guidelines which I have given specific to my organization, it should be associated with that, right? That's called as groundedness detection. Next important member here that you see is protection material detection. If there is any copyrighted content, now this is what I was talking about, labeling and mentioning if there are any sensitive documents that we have, and there could be any custom categories that one would want. Now most of these things that I am talking about is part of your labeling resources provided to us by Microsoft Purview, where we can have lot of such pre-existing categories, pre-existing members that we can associate over here. Okay, so let's take a quick check over here, knowledge check. Why should you consider creating an AI impact assessment when designing a generative AI solution? Can I have some answers from the chat? For the first question, what do you all think would be the right answer? To make a legal case, to document the purpose, expected use, to evaluate the cost of cloud services. So I can see two of them have answered as B or the second option. Let's see the answer. So Utkarsh, Shubham, you are right with it. To document the purpose, expected use, potential harms of the solution. Let's go to the second one. What capability of Azure AI Foundry helps mitigate harmful content generation at safety system level? So I'm seeing plenty of answers over here. That's right. Everybody has given a same answer, which is correct. This is C, content filters. Let's go to the third question. Why should you consider a phased delivery plan for your generative AI solution? Anyone? Any suggestions? So somebody is saying B, and some of them have given answer as A. That's right. The right answer is A, to enable you to gather feedback and identify issues before releasing the solution more broadly. And this is what I was mentioning about. So having a controlled kind of environment, get it verified through various team members, and then finally pitch it to your end customer or make it available to the larger audience. Thank you guys. Let's proceed ahead. So till now we have seen step number 1, creation of the Foundry resource, how lot of models are being, the catalog is already being given, but we cannot hurry into deploying this model. First we'll have to understand what are the resources that we have, what are the members that we have, what precautionary measures one needs to take before we go and implement this. Let's go to the next resource here, configuring a model deployment within Azure AI Foundry. So once it comes to our model catalog, I already showed you all a gist of it. As far as these model catalog is concerned, there are pre-trained models and there are foundational models. As far as foundational models are concerned, foundational models, as the name suggests, these are also referred as base models. Base models are trained using the generic information, generic data. They are not mapped to a specific domain, right? We also have pre-trained model for healthcare sector, for manufacturing, for banking and financial services. It may still not be 100% relevant for a given organization. That part has to be done later. But first, even if we get a model which is closer to our requirement, closer to our customer environment, it will be easier for us to tune it further in a smaller amount of time. So if you look at the model preferences, so we have the base classification over here, which is BERT, which is primarily focusing on tokens, having classification and question answer kind of implementation. We have GPT based model, which is generative pre-trained transformer, looking for text generation, chat completion. Then we have Llama as a model, where we have large language model using Meta AI. Meta AI is another set of services that we have, where the foundation is Llama. Then we have our Phi, which, and if you see, each of these enhancements which has been done has been created based on learnings from the previous models, learnings and challenges faced with the initial models. And these are primarily, I would say, category of models, because even within each of them there are number of subversions which have evolved over a period of time. Some of the benchmarks that we looked at, and it was being shown in the leaderboard, so we can check for accuracy, coherence, groundedness, how easily it can interact or interlace with the custom contents, how relevant are the information being shared over here, what is the fluency that we are looking at, right? So based on the accuracy of the model, yeah. So Shubham, like I mentioned earlier, when you say generic models, for generic models you will have to give them large set of data to train it for a specific domain. Whereas fine tuned model, they already know about a specific domain, banking as a domain, finance as a domain, or medical science as a domain, or if you are looking at it from a insurance calculation perspective, so what are the insurance algorithms, right? That information is already being given to it. So once you look at the pre-existing models over here, we can integrate these models by picking it from the pre-existing environment, and we can associate a API endpoint over here. Once it comes to the charges over here would be based on how many tokens we are giving to it. So it's a complete token based usage. Token primarily would mean what are the number of words being given. So once it comes to the open AI models, we are not billed for deploying the model. The billing is based on the token usage. How many prompts that we are sending, how many requests we are sending, what are the responses being generated, we are billed as per that. If you look at serverless API, pay as you go model, this is pay as per usage. So like we have Azure functions, or we have Lambda, Same way, this is pay as you go model. The third member you see is with user managed compute. So here we are charged for what is the underlying infrastructure being hosted, and if you have a specific machine or a type of SKU being used over here, we will be charged as per the SKU choice that we have done. Let me go back to my environment here. Let's go to models and endpoints. So these are the models that we have. So we can have a fine-tuned model and we can have a base model. So right now I don't have any fine-tuned model mapping to a specific domain or a specific environment type. Let me go for a base model. So here I can go for DALI, I can go for Llama. In my case, let me go for GPT 4.1. Let me go for GPT 4o. We can check the details regarding what is this resource all about: text or image processing, JSON model, parallel function calling. So like I mentioned earlier, so based on, yeah, so Arun, here you will have to provide your data sources to it. You have to provide your own knowledge sources, documents to fine tune this model. And when I say fine tuning, like I said, it is specific to an organization or it is specific to a domain that you want to create it for. Let me give you a scenario. Synergetics as an organization, we are into learning services. Arun, I am already inside Azure Foundry only. This is AI Foundry. Like I was giving an example, as part of our organization within Synergetics, we are into training business, right? So what I can do is, and we train specifically on number of Microsoft solutions, say Azure, and within Azure we are specializing on Azure infrastructure, Azure artificial intelligence, right? We are focusing on these services. So one approach that we can do is we can go to our customer saying that we give you a pre-trained model for learning and implementation, and we give you a learning path for it. Okay, so here the moment we go for learning, so once the user logs in, the user has to mention that yes, I am a new joinee at Synergetics, or I am a learner associated with Synergetics. Can you help me with a learning path on Azure AI? So it can provide complete details to that user. It can provide the complete learning path to that user. What should be a step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4? These are the learning paths that you should go through. This is the projects that you should create. This is the case study that you should create. And as the person keeps submitting that information, it will tell him or her that these are the stages that you have cleared. These are the badges that you have received, right? So the complete learning path with tracking. That is what we'll mean by a fine-tuned model. Does it make sense, Arun? Shubham? Okay. Now, going to the next step here, is AI Foundry same as OpenAI Studio? Yes, it is. The earlier, that's what I began my session with. The earlier name was AI Studio. Now the new name is AI Foundry. So I'm using GPT-4o. Let me go ahead, create this resource here. Shubham, when we are talking about GPT-4o or any of these foundry based models, these are primarily focusing on programming based solutions. If you are looking at low code, no code solution, my recommendation over here would be to go for Copilot within Microsoft 365. That's one option. Second option over here could be working with Copilot Studio, and within Copilot Studio you can use low code no code solutions, but there we don't see all these models available. So there is a pre-built model in the backend that we are supposed to work with. So here if you see the language options available, depending upon which background you all come from, Python, JavaScript, RESTful services, C Sharp, what is the kind of SDK that you want to use, OpenAI SDK, Azure AI reference SDK, depending upon, see the backend service remains the same. The backend service remains the same. The way of accessing in differ. So if you see a .NET based model, what is your endpoint, what is the URI that you want to map over here, right? Running a base code sample, right? This is your Azure AI inference SDK. Now if there are people who are coming from OpenAI background and they have that programming being done earlier, for them this will become easier. So specify the details over here, .NET Restore, .NET Run, and we have our complete messaging available here. So what will be the respective inputs, how it will generate required output for the same. We can pick up the key from here, our endpoint, you can capture the endpoint from here, capture the API key from here. Shubham, yes, we have support for Python as well. So you can do a pip install, we can write our code over here, you can send JSON based messages, JSON array, right? So these are the option available to us. To work with these resources, we also have Playground available, where we can specify our questions. Right. So what is the information that you want to retrieve? You can specify your details over here. You can add your own data. You can add respective data sources. So that's where you can check the grounding as well. Let me stop here, go back to my presentation. So what I was mentioning right now are set of options available from a deployment and pricing perspective. And what I that's why I said let me go back to a presentation, because though I have not discussed it, once you go to the UI you continue with the flow there. So here what we can do is we can try out these things, do a initial set of testing by and before you actually make it available to everybody else, or else in sense even the developer team. Here what we can do is we can try out these things using the chat playground. Within chat playground, whichever resource we have selected, whichever model we have selected, we can start mentioning our basic queries over here, basic prompts over here, add set of knowledge sources over here, and see if able to associate with that and work with appropriately or not. We can apply set of prompt engineering over here, like I was mentioning about, mentioning the context and specifying what are the underlying resources that is supposed to work with. While working with any of these models, now this is something which is model agnostic. So step number one, provide very clear instructions what you want that model to behave as. So when we are talking about these members, here we'll have to be careful and train the model correctly. So provide clear instructions. We'll need to format the instructions as well. So if you see the details mentioned, translate the text into French. What will be the weather going to be like today? Can you see this? So here it is saying, I don't have real-time data or ability to access current weather conditions. And this is what is the meaning of fine-tuned model or trained model versus generic base model. Trained model will already know what is the location, what it is supposed to do, all these things it will know. But if you have a base model will not have all that information. So when you are specifying right set of details, right, and you have trained it correctly, it will be able to provide right kind of details for it. So we need to provide clear instructions, format the instruction, specify the data sources or knowledge sources from where it can get the information. So this is what I was mentioning about. How do you set up a environment, set up a prompt? So first is your system message, what it is supposed to do. You are a financial helper, expert in calculating the EMI So this is the more in terms of financial helper, right? So the moment you specify that, now we are doing is fine tuning that model to behave in a particular manner. The moment you tell him this is what I need you to do, it will say, Om Prakash, this will be the information which I require from you so that I can do my job better. That's called a system message. Right? So if you want to be more specific, right, provide more relevant details, you can't miss this point. This point is very, very important for me. So you can reinforce on certain aspect. So once these two things have been done, then we can have chain of thought. What sport is easiest to learn but hardest to master? So Zaid, here based on what is your requirement, you will have to first create these prompts and you can give it to your team or train the model yourself. Correct? Apart from when I say messaging or prompts, you also need to have data. Specifically, now here we are talking about information available on web. If you have any information which is available within your environment, right, through PPT or Word documents or images, depending upon the model that we have chosen, we'll have to specify that data as well. What will be the EMI for principal amount as say 20 lakhs, rate of interest as say 10%, and tenure for say 20 years. Right? So we'll do the required calculations in the background. What is the principal amount? What is the formula being used? And what will be the correct? So here if you see the response here, wishing you success in managing your finances. How is it coming to this conclusion? Because I have told him that you are a financial helper, right? So depending upon how you train this, so this is like a person you are hiring, which is a continuous learner, right? And while this guy is learning, you can keep giving multiple inputs and keep asking multiple questions, but just be clear what you want him or her to do, right? So if you give weird instructions, if you give 20 things, the the model will fail in sense it will not be able to correlate every aspect here. So you'll have to be very clear, give a specific set of instructions, and let the model perform accordingly. And this is just one example. There could be multiple such implementations that we can do depending upon what tasks or what activities you want him to perform. So can you direct me to a library? So if it is not giving a right information, or if it is giving partial details, you want more details on that, you can ask for online help. Now once we are done with this, we can deploy it as a web application. If if you want to see a code for it in a specific language, Python, C sharp, we can see the details over here. So what was the content being given, what was the response being generated. So this is more developer focused, developer centric, having part of the code being built for you, part of the resources being made available to us, so that it becomes easier for us to work with it. So I'll stop with this, because this part of the session that we are doing, that is training the model, efficiency of the model, this is actually a lengthy discussion. So I'll stop with that. Let's go into the next section here. So once we have identified a model, once we have started doing a fine tuning with it, so whatever 5-10 statements that we have mentioned right now, these are some of the initial steps how you can tune a model, correct? So right now we have used GPT-4. Same way we can evaluate Hugging Face, same way we can evaluate Llama, same way we can evaluate other models for chat based conversation. Apart from this, there could be image generation as well. So my requirement could be, based on the inputs being given, I want to generate an image. That would be another set of models. So our evaluation criteria would be the same. Then we have to check the model performance. So that 10 sentences or 10 prompts which I have given, how much time did it take for each of the models, and if the final output that I received, was it as per my expectation, below my expectation, better than what I was expecting, right? That's where we will evaluate the model performance. Now depending upon our expectations of the step number 1, which is common for everything, which is prompt engineering. So how you are writing the prompts and how we are training that model. Once that is being done and you have glued onto a model saying this is one of the best models which I liked, now I want to go ahead with giving 20 more prompts to it and doing a fine tuning for it. Apart from this, we can do RAG implementation, which can be done using code, which can be done using code and giving other set of prompts. And along with that, we'll be giving the knowledge sources now to search that information. And like I said, the output which is being generated should be associated or grounded with my content. That's what is part of your RAG. So retrieving the information, augmenting it, and generating a new content. This augmentation is very important aspect. Augmentation primarily means associating with my information or my organization content, right? Fine tuning and RAG will keep going hand in hand as we proceed ahead, because end of the day, this is what we have to finalize upon. Guys, I'm running short on time. Whatever I have showed you all right now within my environment, I have also shared you all some of the links over here which you all can work with. Parallelly, Microsoft has also given us set of pre-existing labs that you all can try out. Let me share this link on the chat. So if you all see some of the initial steps which I had done, how do you go to AI Foundry, what are the steps involved over here, how do you create a hub, how do you create a project, some of the additional resources which I have not done right now, how do you add a connected service, language translation, speech recognition. Can you see this? Setting the system prompt. You are a history teacher who can answer questions about past events all around the world. So you have to tell the model what type, how that model has to behave. So it will start translating itself, or it will take up that role and start behaving in a specific manner. Right, so you have respective labs over here. GPT-4o, this is what I have taken right now. So you can see the comparison over here. What are the models available, and if you want to compare set of models within the model catalog, we can check for it. Check for accuracy, fluency, relevance. Right, so this is the same thing which you are referring to, GPT-4o. What are the benchmarks for it? GPT-4o is best in terms of AI quality, best in terms of estimated cost, latency, throughput. From accuracy point of view, 0.75. So you all can go through the respective labs over here. I have already shared the link on the chat. Let me proceed ahead. So let's go to knowledge check once again. So anyone who want to help me with the first one, you want to specify the tone, format, content for each interaction with your model in the playground. What should you use to customize the model response? Okay. So I'm seeing responses on C, that is system message. That's the right answer. Thanks, Yusuf. Thank you, everyone. What pattern can you use to ground prompts? Second question. Absolutely correct. Grounding of prompt. Grounding, like I said earlier, it is association of the local information, organization information, along with the web content which is being retrieved. Go to the third one. Where can you test a deployed model in Azure AI Foundry? I have already started receiving the responses on this. Chat playground. Thank you, guys. We have around 10 minutes on hand. Let me try covering some of the other aspects. Now, once it comes to creation of prompts, training the, choosing the model, deploying the model available, that would be your step number one. Make sure you already have taken the security aspects into consideration before you make it available to the public, right? So that aspect is already being mentioned. Now, the next aspect over here is from perspective of setting a development life cycle. We are going back to our old mechanisms, because as far as DevOps is concerned, or as far as uh, writing our code in terms of tuning the model or working with the models, it will still fall into place. when we are using a right DevOps model over here. In terms of DevOps model, we have our dev test environment, testing environment, staging environment, production environment, right? Similar kind of framework should be available for this member as well. So in terms of initialization, where we have identified the requirement of the customer, whether the requirement can be satisfied by using the base model or by choosing a pre-existing fine-tuned model. Now these fine-tuned model may be purchased from an outside environment, or if there is a set of free downloads available, you can refer that, it's up to us. So once we have identified that, we start designing the solution, we choose a model, we add a set of knowledge sources to it, and start creating a small, verifying it with a small data set to see how is the response, how much is the efficiency or performance of the given data set. As we go ahead, we will have our learnings. Sorry, I made a mistake by choosing a specific XYZ model. That the base LLM model is not giving me the right performance. Let me junk that, take a newer one, or even within say GPT, take a newer model, latest model, right? So there will be number of learnings that we will have over here. We will check for evaluation, refinement using a larger data set. Now let me take a pause here. Guys, there are two aspects that one needs to understand. One is the LLMs and second is the SLM. When you are looking at a very broad audience, anybody can ask anything and they would want to use the model in any format, correct? LLMs will make more sense over there. For a small scale organization, or again for a specific department, if there are matured people who have their own specific set of prompts, discussions, details, it is preferable to go for a SLM based model, which is small language model. Tuning a small language model is much more easier, faster, and the amount of compute that it needs is much lesser. Now when I say SLM, does not mean it is less performant or there is a challenge there. It may not have lot of generic features. Now say for example, lot of language translation, image, but I don't need that. And please be careful, I am saying from a specific use case perspective. I have a small set of people who are working on that, a small research environment kind of thing. They are working on a specific project, on a specific module. LLMs may be expensive in that context, I am saying. So we can evaluate SLMs, and if that makes sense for our requirement. Now once this is being done, we can deploy it, make it available to our end users. Again, the charging model that we have over here is based on number of tokens, right? So if you are making it publicly available for the entire globe, how many people are connecting to your website, what are the questions provided you have published it on your website. I'm taking that as a scenario. If we have published it there, how many people are coming onto your system, what are type of questions being asked, how many interactions we are having, because every word that is being mentioned is a token, right? If you can map it on a broad level from that perspective, okay? So then we'll have to make sure it is available to right audience. So once it comes to your prompt flow, this is how it is mapped. So you have your respective inputs being received, which could be your various types, string, integers, boolean values, any kind of files, JSON content that you want to upload. Primarily all of that JSON information will also translate into a string. Next important member over here would be what is the processing or any kind of algorithms that we have behind the scene, any uh, resources that it wants to connect to, external resources, and finally provide the output for it. Right? That will be a simple flow within the environments. If you look at the inputs which are coming, there will be a prompt tool, which could be, like I was mentioning, an example of a web based environment. That's where the inputs will be coming. So this is more like a front end that we are creating for interactions with the prompt. Next resource over here would be our LLM tool that we are talking about, which is mapped to the respective model that we have selected. And once the outcome is being generated, again it is being given back to the front end UI as an output. So if you look at the system resources, these are the variants which I was mentioning about. You are a skilled lawyer, you are expert on constitution, you won several lawsuits, so we are training that model. Please don't be worried. The moment you mention these prompts, it knows that it has to go to internet, it has to go to web, or whatever is the mapped knowledge source, it has to download and prepare itself from that perspective. Rather than making it more generic, we are making it more specific. So guys, we'll stop with this for today. Like Shubh mentioned earlier, we can do these sessions for your organization, for a specific institution that you all belong to, in more deep dive with hands-on implementation. So you all can connect to Shubh Parmar from our organization. Thank you very much everyone. Shubh, are you there?